Hi. We're back. We got no more heroes. Gonna turn down my microphone. No, not my microphone. My headset volume again. And start on some No More Heroes by moving my by not looking at the game through OBS and switching my monitor input source. All right. So last time we got to rank 6 by defeating Holly Summers. Now we just gotta go get more of that money, but first we gotta play with Jean. She's a cute cat we gotta play with.
You hungry?
Look at her eat that. I like that for as much of a sociopath and murderer as Travis is, he still has a cat and is a good person.
There.
Well, okay, I'm not gonna go as far as to say he's a good person. And is like a regular person with a cat, you know? Sociopath killers can have cats too. As half of Twitter illustrates. Let's go out and make bank. New part-time job is available. You have enough money for the next entrance fee. Okay, so now we have a thing we can give Naomi. So we're gonna go by that first, which is probably gonna make us pretty dang broke. But it'll be fine. We'll just grind it out. We'll grind it out, boys. You know what? I totally missed that there's a trash can.
Whoa.
Now I have this nice shirt with kinda. It's German. I don't know it. So we give the thing to Naomi. She's gonna have a new sword for us, which is gonna be cool.
Hey,
But we're gonna have to.
single finger on anything.
What the hell did you get this? I swear you can get your hands on almost anything these days. It scares me to think a thing like this is out in the world. Okay, let's see what I can do with it. I'll give it a shot. Handed U.S. military secret. So I don't have anything. Okay, so I can't buy anything.
We will talk.
Well, I think we should still do the part-time stuff. Because, you know, you gotta save up for the next one. And I know I am gonna have to buy a bunch of stuff. I think one thing that I was thinking of earlier was that I think a reason I remember this game being more grindy than it might actually be is because when I first played this game, I bought everything. I bought every t-shirt, every pair of pants. So I ended up having to grind out a lot more money, whereas right now, I'm not really, I'm being a lot more choosy about what I spend my money on. So I went into this round with already enough money to get to the next ranking fight, which is actually kind of cool. Like I had completely forgotten in my assessment of this game that you don't have to buy everything, and find all the low glove balls and stuff like that, and you can sort of play the game a little bit more naturally and loosely, which I think is maybe to the game's benefit, but which I think makes me like the game a little bit more, as like mechanically speaking. Third class man? I have not mastered the secret of the first class yet. It's not too bad. The first rated guide will give hardworking man a little. Today's job has been listed on the bulletin board. Mine sweeping. Clean up the mines buried in the beach. A bonus will be paid due to how dangerous the work is. 2,000 for each mine removed. So we'll figure out how this works. I don't remember at all how this works. So we shall see. Oops. Oh, that's my phone. Okay. Let's go to the beach. Oh, that's not far at all. totally forget I can run sometime. The unspoken rules of Santa Destroy indicate danger. No one swims on the beach here. There are military mines buried in the sand after all. The army used the beach for testing out new maneuvers. You won't see any girls in bikinis, and you'll need a metal detector to avoid getting a serious sunburn. What else would you expect from this place anyway? No tourists, no sunbathers, no lodge. The god of landmines hates metal detectors. So, work persistently. So, I guess walk around and press A. Is that one? Minesweeping start. Safely remove the mines buried in the beach. Listen to your metal detector to locate them. Then use your green katana to destroy the mines.
3, 2, 1, 0.
I'm not finding anything. There we go. You saw that though, right? There's a mine here. Very close. There we go. That's technically one. Cool. There we go. Where is that mine? Oh, I'd like to get it. Oh, there we go. I mean, we're somewhat ahead of the game, so I don't mind too much, but that's not gonna, that's gonna be like a bronze. Ah, it's a silver. I'm okay with that, considering everything. Hey, you third rater, I've got another job for you. Something a little shadier, perhaps, but work all the same. I've sent an introduction ticket on to my associate. The road to becoming a first rater is long and hard. Get your ass in gear. Also, I'm glad that I'm ahead of the game at this point, because I don't know that I really want to do that one multiple times, but I guess we'll see what the assassination is. Since I guess I don't necessarily repeat the part-time job stuff all that much.
Travis, welcome.
Guys, welcome. Here's the suggestion you can do for your next rank. Kill as many enemies as you can. Alrighty.
May you find your copper part?
Make it go. I'm not seeing anything in chat, so either people aren't chatting or I'm not getting the messages somehow. So if you are, I'm assuming people just aren't chatting. But if you are chatting and I'm not seeing it, it's because I'm oh, there. Okay. Hey, Raisin B Man. Thanks for checking the chat for me, basically, to make sure that people were in fact doing it. Hey, everybody. Hey, Squido. Squid. All right.
3, 2, 1.
That's a lot of guys. Whatever, man. Keep running. Squishy games, would you care to define what squishy means in this case? What is a squishy game? Why does No More Heroes sound like it? Or... I don't know what squishy is, so one of you guys is gonna have to tell me what squish is.
Get the fuck out of here.
Oh, there's one guy over there. Oh no. Yeah, so what does it mean to be squishy? I don't, like, what are the parameters? I don't understand. 60,000 is pretty good. Oh yeah. In Europe the game was censored. I think in Japan also, but I don't remember. But yeah, this game is definitely censored in other regions so that the enemies play dash, which is a weird reversal because usually, like especially in the Super Nintendo area, you'd see games censored for the American audience. Like during the Super Nintendo era. But yeah, I think I want to say that the PS3 remaster, which is not generally well liked, I think added the blood into the European and Asian version. Basically like bloody, gory, squishy, but emphasis on squishing sounds very like. I could say, yeah. I could see No More Heroes being squishy. It's very gory, but I would say it's bloody, but squishy is not necessarily what I would.
Welcome.
I wouldn't say it's the most squishy game, but it's definitely got squish to it. I would say, I don't know. Recently coming to mind is Doom Eternal is an incredibly squishy game. Squishy can be a mix of sound effects and or gore involving things that squish. For example, Dead Space when you stomp the necro makes a squishy sound and is gore to the point of being squishy. Yeah. No, Dead Space is definitely a candidate for sure. It's up there. I think Doom Eternal's got to be up there though. Just because everything squishes in that game and everything just moves with a heft. A Stroke of Genius. An art supply store called Stroke of Genius. Pretty good. Nope, crashed into that pole. No more heroes that is kill or be killed. So far I have killed. And I've technically been killed a couple times. But those don't count. Yeah, StarCraft, the Zerg and StarCraft are definitely squishy. So just very gory, like, games where you hear the, yeah, you hear squishies a lot.
Hey, he's over here! You mad with me? He's over here!
Kill this guy real quick. You did it. Is Splatoon squishy? In a non-gory way. I guess it depends on how much you value the how much you value the gore in that, because it's definitely a very squishy game. Hey, M-Wax. Alright, well. With that, I guess it's time to go to the next ranking fight. That did not take long. I've not been doing anywhere near as much grinding as I figured, but... Right. Look at that giant burger. I love a good burger place. A good place with a giant version of its food up on top of it. People don't do that anymore. What is the closest restaurant to you that has something like that? Because I don't know of a place in Minneapolis that has something like that. I think the closest like giant food thing that I have is that cherry with a spoon in the park. And that's not even for a restaurant. That's just for like some bullshit. So like, do I think they'll ever put these on Switch? I would imagine. I mean, Nintendo has a pretty good relationship with Grasshopper and Ubisoft, the original publishers of the game. So I'm surprised they haven't done it yet, considering they're publishing They published Travis Strikes Again and No More Heroes 1 and 2. And they're publishing No More Heroes 3, I believe. Or they're working somehow with Suda, with Grasshopper, to do that.
Travis?
Let me guess. You're out shopping.
Wrong! Woohoo! I am on vacation! Fiesta, baby!
Shopping? Now a vacation?
Ooh! Ibiza's amazing! Almost as amazing as me! A hardworking girl never forgets the others, even on vacation!
Hey, I don't want to interrupt your fiesta. Who's next?
Hey! Give me a second! Don't go anywhere, sweet thing! What? Huh?
Yo, what's the problem? Something wrong? Hello?
Huh? I'm getting a bad connection. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
great.
Woo! Shake it, baby! Oh, yeah!
Yeah, there is a PS3 port of 1. I don't think there's a PS port. Is that my cat? Alright. There is a PS3 port of 1. I don't think there's a PS port of 2. Okay, so you're over here now. Hey, NT Clark. Welcome to the stream.
You hungry?
Can I feed my cat again?
There.
Who talks on the phone while squatting like that? That's a good question, Smack, but hey, sometimes, you know, I was listening to the backlog of a podcast called Important If True, which is a very, very good podcast from some of the people who were at Campo Santo, actually recently shipped Half-Life Alyx with the rest of Valve. And they were talking about how... Oh, what is this? They were talking about how somehow or another the topic of questioning every decision you make as it happens came up, and I think very few of us would have like great justifications for a lot of the things we do on a regular basis. So I think it's I think if you were to ask Travis why he did that, I don't think he would know. But it's just a weird thing that a lot of people do. I think a lot of people have weird quirks that if you ask them, like, why do you do that? They just kind of shrug their shoulders and be like, I don't know. So I feel like that's maybe one of those things. He just decided the best thing to do at that point in time was to just squat, right? Because if you interrogated every decision anyone ever made, a lot of them would be like, I don't know, I just kind of did it. So there's this mysterious gamer. I mean, it's the Sloth Squad. The Sloth Squad is a known thing. This guy's dead. This lady's dead. Here's the next rank fight. I really like the drums in this version of the theme. It's really good. What are some very squishy games? I mentioned it earlier. People were talking about Splatoon. I mentioned Doom Eternal. Yeah, there's not Dead Space. People brought up, which is another great one. Yeah, it's hard to think of squishy games just right off the bat. I think Doom Eternal is like immediately like the first one that comes to mind for me. I think BioShock can be kind of squishy, just like depending on the power of the weapons you're using. Like I definitely remember some like really messed up stuff in the first BioShock if you used the shotgun a whole lot, where people's face would just be disfigured. Also, the enemies in that game were generally pretty ugly. So. Who's this guy? He's fast. Yeah, he's a fast guy.
Are you prepared?
Oh, this guy. It's a really long hallway.
Hey, he's over here! You messing with me?
Well, it's not the kind of thing that it was. You mean the replay? That's right. Yeah, there's a whole long argument. Like, I appreciate Killer 7 for things that I know other people will just look at and say like this is bad, and it's not that I necessarily disagree with them. I just think that it's trying to do something very different. Or I'm not gonna say try, because I think the intentionality there is kind of besides the point. I think that it does something very interesting with game design that I think is very unique, that not a lot of games do. And I'm not gonna say necessarily like it's a mastermind kind of like thesis statement on game design, but that's kind like, for me, that's kind of what it ends up being in these very interesting. Also, you know, like a lot of the appeal of Killer 7 isn't that like, oh, really dug into the meaty like gameplay systems. But there is, I think there are a number of things at play there that I think really make me appreciate the combination of visuals and gameplay there. But that's a story for another time.
Hey, he's over here!
Range man, Killer 7, you should have seen Killer 1 through 6. I believe the proper joke, or at least the joke that I would make is, Killer 7, I only met her once. Ask in the chat. This is a very long hallway.
I'm gonna kill you! Hey, he's over here!
I do like the music in these games. I think the soundtracks for 1 and 2 are fantastic. I think the soundtrack for Killer 7 is good, but it's not like it doesn't have that many bobs. There's Ray Vaughn, which is a certified bob, but the rest of it is very mood music. It works there, but. I guess we'll see if I get to actually use this one. It's time for that call.
Travis, hello? Continue forward and you will enter your next ranked match. The 5th rank awaits you if you win, and only eternal damnation awaits if you lose. How are you feeling? No irritable rashes? Hit the John lately? Taking care of the blackheads on your nose? Might I recommend a good hygiene set? When you're ready, step inside. Now, don't tense up too much on this one. You've been slacking off a bit. You must maintain a steady tempo. Oui, you know what I mean, right? I am so sorry to say this, but I am 1,800% positive that you will die here. But trust your force and head for the Garden of Madness.
Here we go, here we go. Gonna run down this very long hallway. I'm glad I have the dash now. Wait, did I? Okay. I thought this was the thing. I'm getting line. If you guys are hearing line notifications, it's my bad. I thought I'd closed it and turned it off, but. Oh, nice. There's this white space.
At last. Doctor, it's time. Wake up! Oh yeah, I feel a good undulation. Your rumbling is excellent. I think I'm going to lose the bowel control.
You the 5th ranked guy?
Yeah! I've been waiting for you!
You certainly sound like you're up for a fight.
I'm ready whenever you are!
All right then, here I come.
Disaster Blaster, charging ignition.
Ignition ready.
Activating main engine.
Activating sub-engine.
Check.
Cycle ratio 15%.
Cluster generator active.
Calculating coordinates.
Thermal protection on.
Cycle ratio 25%.
Anti-shock balancer open.
Calculation complete. Heat detection system normal. Target acquisition 98%.
Main panel open.
Cycle ratio 55%.
Activate cell pistons.
Maximize output.
Ignite vanishing sparks.
Cycle ratio 80%.
Activate trinity pistons.
Pistons at peak power.
Scouting scope open.
All systems go.
T-minus 10 seconds.
Cycle ratio 100%.
T-minus 7 seconds.
Cycle ratio 140%.
T-minus 5 seconds.
Maximum output. Critical point exceeded.
T-minus 3, 2, 1. Eat this!
Travis touchdown, is it not?
Son of a bitch! Fucking Snatcher! I had him!
Dance with me, Travis.
A katana. This is getting interesting. What do you go by?
Henry.
Henry?
Your instincts serve you well. I
don't know who you are or what you want, Sir Henry. Where are your manners? That was my kill, you naughty boy!
Shall we get this over with? And don't hate me if I play a tad dirty.
Fine by me.
After you.
Hey, I got an S rank.
Stop right there! The fight is over! Travis, you are now ranked 5th.
But we haven't even... We're just getting started!
Perhaps you've forgotten, these fights are an official game. If your opponent dies for whatever reason, according to the rules of conduct, it is your win.
That's fucked up. That's the stupidest rule I've ever heard. This guy's mine, and you just want me to let him go, bitch?
Rules are rules. You can't have what you can't have.
Whatever. But this dude says he wants to fight, and ain't nobody gonna stop him. This ass clown right here is...
Who?
Hey! He's gone! Mr. Sir Henry motherfucker, he just jetted. What a pussy.
Sorry, save that aggression for your next match.
Who the hell was that guy?
We did it. Language hasn't aged well, but we did it. Yeah, that's. I think this is kind of was leading to what I was talking about earlier about Killer 7. Is that like, I think it's a game that really, in a number of ways, really subverts your expectations, and I think this is something that here No More Heroes does pretty well here, where one of the main events of the game is kind of taking out from under you. Where you basically skip one of the assassin fights. And to be fair, this is a thing with Grasshopper games, where they will usually have you skip a boss, usually. If I remember correctly, there are a few other No More Heroes games that end up having you, instead of having a boss battle, you'll do a thing. Like there's the Power Rangers ripoffs in Killer 7, which isn't really a fight. It's more of a set piece, right? And so... that is an interesting way to subvert expectations, not through like, oh, here's a character twist, or like here's a narrative twist that is told through a cutscene, but that still follows kind of the rules of video games, you know?
Hi, this is Diane from Beefhead Videos. We're calling to let you know you're overdue on returning one of our videos. It's titled Air Force One: The First Lady Returns to the Mile High Club.
Mr. Touchdown, your UAA registration is complete. As of today, you are officially the 5th ranked assassin in the United States. Nice work. You are on the fast track to the top. Keep it up, and good luck.
And so I like that the game kind of subverts that stuff, because you don't see that a lot in games. Next fee is 400,000, which I already have, but I'm gonna have to go buy a sword now. So you don't see a lot of subversion in terms of gameplay. And you do see it, but it's very rare and usually used as like a way to like drive home a moment that the game is already working towards. So it's not like unpredictable a lot of the time. And I think that is a thing that I've begun to look for the more I play games, is that like, give me a subversion of this that doesn't just feel like you playing by the rules of game design. So imagine if, you know how when you go into a boss fight, you'll usually get, like, if it's any game with resources, you'll usually see a ton of like, you'll see like a save room, you'll see a bunch of ammo, or you'll see like a huge arena, right? And those set you up to think, hey, there's a boss fight here. Very few games will do anything to subvert that expectation. So you won't see like, oh, I get a bunch of ammo. There's a save point. I do everything. Like, I do all my upgrade stuff or whatever. Here's a way that the game communicates, hey, like, take this seriously. You're about to go into a boss fight. And then for them to not do that, I think is very rare. Which is a reason that I kind of like Suda games, is that they subvert expectations. Like, the best Suda games, I think, subvert expectations, not just in like the narrative sense or through like cutscenes or the story or like just like the written text of the game, but through gameplay, like the way they implement gameplay mechanics. And I think like that's this, to me, like the Let's Shake kind of rug thing, I think is cool, because yeah, it denies you a boss fight, but I think it is a rhetorical moment meant to drive home the kind of the frustration that Travis has, you know?
Don't lay a single finger on anything.
The new model? Yeah, it's complete. Pretty, huh? Just look at his shape. Only I can make something so beautiful. Tsubaki Mark II. What? Here. I don't have any parts. But hey, we bought the Tsubaki Mark II. I think that's a Tsubaki Mark II. Let's go to the apartment and check. Yeah, I wish more games actually did that. Because usually it's like, I can't think of many other games, and maybe the chat will let me know, of games that actually do anything close to that, where they not through like story stuff, but through the signage of like the video game medium, they tell you, hey, this thing is about to happen, and then they take it away. Not a whole lot of games do that. I think the only one, the only other one that comes to mind immediately is Brothers, and that's kind of like, and then again, that's like the denouement moment. So I don't see a lot of that in games, and it's the thing that Suda consistently does in his games. But not as much anymore. Even Travis Strikes Again didn't necessarily have a whole lot of that. It was cool, but you know, and interesting, but like, and to some degree subversive, but not for those reasons. And I think Killer 7 is a game that pretty consistently does that. Okay, so I do have the Mark II. So we do have to do another round of fights, but we did get our money. Although not as much money as we usually do, because usually we kill more people. So let's do more part-time jobs. I think we have enough time to do maybe another part-time job and another... maybe one more assassination. I guess we'll see. But I might just cut it short. Who knows? So I think after this, we will have to do a little bit of grinding after we do both of the jobs, but we'll be fine. And I think that's kind of why I really was drawn to No More Heroes. Like, this game, I mean, like, the biggest credit that I can give this game is this is the game that made me seek out more Suda games. Because it was, I hadn't really played a lot like it before. It felt like it felt like an actually subversive video game at a time where I personally had not played a whole ton of those. Because there aren't a lot of games that kind of mess with your expectations that way. I think Shadow of the Colossus is one that a lot of people point to, but even then, it's like, as soon as the structure of that game is established, I think that it is very defiant in its core design. Like, it is very interesting in that sense, and I'm like, it is, the more I play it, the more times I play it, the more I love that game. Third class, man. I have not mastered the secret of the first class yet. It's not too bad. The first rated guide will give a hardworking man a little smile. Today's job has been listed on the bulletin board. Erase graffiti from the walls. What was I saying? First again. Well, Shadow of the Colossus. Yeah, I don't want to take away anything from Shadow of the Colossus, but once the game kind of establishes that like, hey, there aren't any enemies. All you're going to be killing is the lizards and the colossi. It doesn't really take away from that. It doesn't really subvert that in any meaningful way. And not that it has to, like, because that's not what it's going for. It is very much trying to like tell a very earnest tale that is just happens to be very non-traditional. But I think that more games could use a lot of subversive design. I actually think Undertale might be the other one. I think Undertale is another like incredibly subversive game. That's kind of why I like subversive games, because I don't think we see a lot of actual subversion in video game design, at least in like most mainstream games. You don't see a lot of like messing with, like, a game can have all the plot twists of a Metal Gear Solid, but very rarely will it do things within the game system. It'll never muck with your resources. It'll never muck with your upgrades. It'll never like mess with like the core mechanics at play in the game. unless it's like the most common thing they'll do is that like, oh, you fell through a hole, or like some explosion happened, or you're, you know, said like the common like there was an accident and now suddenly you have your weapons back, but you know you're gonna get them back. Like it's a very common subversion that doesn't really have much impact at this point. And then there's like the dream sequence, which I don't think is actually all that subversive at all. Mostly because it's like the expectation is that, yeah, the whole point of a video game is that you're crafting another otherworldly area that doesn't have to be practical. So yeah, like the fact that things are coming in all the time and like, oh god, like look at that, like you turn around the corner, everything's totally different. Like that's the thing that video games can fairly, not, I'm not gonna say it's easy, but can do pretty ably, you know. The unspoken rules of Santa Destroy will never change. The fight will rage on until graffiti is gone from the town of freedom and lawlessness. Eternity is just around the corner. Your hard work can change this town. The future of Central Destroy is a town without graffiti. Hard work will never betray you. Hard work will change your future. Kill the god of graffiti. Work harder than you've ever worked before. I will say that for a punk game, removing graffiti, not very punk. This is some pretty the man stuff. Erase the graffiti spirit around the town.
3, 2, 1.
Isn't this it? What? Okay. Did it. Gotta figure out where any other signage is. Man, if I didn't have that upgrade. This is before Wii Motion Plus, by the way, so it's like none of the gosh. Does not help the frame rate. The frame rate stuff is not helping here. Is Travis getting any ranged attacks? He gets one when he gets like the proper lottery thing going. But no, he does not get like an actual, like, reliable ranged attack. Which I don't think he really, the combat really needs. I think what the combat needs is a little bit more intricacy, because even now, like, I'm not finding it particularly difficult, and it's kind of losing a lot of its like flair. So I'm not finding it particularly challenging, and the high and low stuff is kind of, they use it very inconsistently. So I'm usually just basically like I stick with attacking high unless unless the game tells me otherwise, because not a lot of enemies block low or block high, and you'll see it enough. Like it's not that much of a distraction, but I am not finding any. Oh, I'm seeing it they're on my map. So, yeah, you don't get a lot of that. I think Travis Strikes Again actually did a decent job of adapting that to a 2D plane and adding some more interesting abilities on top of it, where it was less about like individual enemies and more about crowd control in that sense, which actually I think worked to its advantage. I think if they had tried to emulate like the high-low stuff at that angle, well, they probably didn't have the budget for it, so it probably wouldn't have been that good. But and I know a lot of people didn't necessarily care for that game's combat, but I was totally fine with it. It's not like the highlight, but I think it's the way that you managed crowds and stuff later, especially later levels, that I think actually worked to that game's advantage. Like, I think more games could stand to, yeah, to be interesting from a design sense and not just like a aesthetic. Like, ooh, look at how nice the graphics are. I don't think I did all that well because I basically ran around doing nothing. You're just fine. I guess we can do one assassination mission and then call it for today. I will have to do a little bit more grinding. Hey, you third raider, I've got another job for you. Something a little shadier, perhaps, but work all the same. I've sent an introduction to ticket on to my associate. The road to becoming a first rater is long and hard. Get your ass in gear. Yeah, the high and low stuff, I think they needed something. It could, because I think if you don't have that, it's just like you're just mashing A at opponents. But I don't know that they do the best job of implementing the high and low stuff. Because I think, honestly, Skyward Sword was like a better version of this combat. Here's a list of details you can do. There's just the one. Kill with wrestling moves only. No other moves are allowed for this mission. The mission ends when all targets are dead. Yeah, I think that I think that's what I want to see from a No More Heroes 3. It's just something that builds on that combat system, which is fairly simple. Yeah, and there's like the wrestling stuff, of course. But overall, it's not like a particularly like intricate loop. And yeah, it does get fairly mashy, and like the enemies are interesting to crowd manage, so you don't really get as much of that as you'd like. So I don't think this is like the greatest action game ever made, but in terms of like playable Suda games, this is probably his most playable. And I think No More Heroes has like probably the best balance in terms of like traditional game design being kind of interesting and the weirder elements coming to the fore. Whereas I think No More Heroes plays a lot better, or No More Heroes 2, but is less of an interesting game narratively, or at least that's my memory of it. I haven't played it since it actually came out, but I'm very curious to revisit 2 because I think my memory of that game is pretty poor. I get a 4-sided one, which I think has more diagonal range. I remember this being my weapon of choice when trying to crowd control. What the heck? It's not. Oh, that's right, because I can only use the wrestling moves. I like that I'm fighting the baseball guys again.
Hey, he's over here. Hey, he's over here.
Alright, well. Oh god. Oh, this sucks. I don't think I'm gonna do much now. I legitimately don't remember the last boss of No More Heroes 2. I have to think about who the last. I think that there was one particular boss that I thought was really hard in 2. I don't know if we're thinking of the same person.
Are you prepared, huh?
Wonder if this will actually help at all.
Hey, he's over here.
Oh well. Yeah, the 4-sided lightsaber is definitely good for crowd control if I remember correctly. Alright, so we still have a little ways to go in terms of grinding. But since we just bought a sword, I don't think it's that crazy. Okay. So I think this next one will be quick, but I think we'll do that tomorrow. But yeah, now it's doing similar, the interesting stuff. There's some cool stuff at the end, obviously, but we're getting into the latter half here. We've only got 4 rankings to go. Yeah, I think I would be experiencing No More Heroes 2 a little bit more fresh than No More Heroes 1. Just because I played it once when it came out and loved the ass out of it. But don't remember too much about it. But yeah, I'm going to call it for today. A little early, but we should be okay. I appreciate everyone who came by. I should be around to stream tomorrow. We're 7 hours into this game. But cool. Alright, thanks everybody for watching. I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.